Hey, Joe, what do you got for us tonight?
Well, tonight is the 13th part of our series on Jim Jones and the People's Temple. We will discuss Jim's continued legal battles, his attempts to repair Jonestown's damaged public image, and finally, the dreaded visit from California Congressman Leo Ryan.
Quiet your mind. Ever since the Earth has circled the Sun, there have been fantastic tales of wonder and mystery that the fate of heart dare not discuss. But three brave, uninformed souls have the brass to tackle every extraordinary happenstance, from the modern age to the dawn of Mantis.
Welcome back to Dawn of Mantis, True Crime Mysteries and More. I'm Ivan with Joe and Sam. Hey, this is the next to last, the writing's on the wall. I hate to say that because I know what's going to happen, but I mean, it happened. Mm-hmm. We're saying it's going to happen, but it happened.
A long time ago.
Yeah. I could tell last episode it was ramping up, but you tease that it's going to be even more craziness on these last two.
It's so complicated and there's so many moving parts that, it did take 2 or 3 episodes just to tell the final part.
Yeah. All right, let's get into this thing.
All right. Well, when we ended our previous episode, as Ivan said, Congressman Leo Ryan was finally making plans to make an investigative visit to Jonestown. In early September of 78, he discussed the idea with Democratic Majority Leader Jim Wright and told him that he highly doubted he'd be let inside the gate of Jonestown. However, Ryan did feel that a trip there would not be wasted. He planned to highly publicize the whole ordeal and bring along not only a few fellow congressmen, but also several members of the concerned relatives group. When Jim Jones refused to cooperate, it would only strengthen their argument that he was a highly secretive cult leader harboring hostages in the Guyanese jungle.
I guess the drive, they are still citizens.
Mm-hmm.
They just happen to be down there.
Yeah.
So if you think they're being locked up against their will, I don't know. It's kind of hard whenever someone's like pushed to the brink of insanity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they just choose to stay. It's crazy.
And we also need to kind of reflect on something I just read. Leo Ryan did not expect ever to actually be able to go into Jonestown.
Okay.
He did not at all. Like the entire time, right up until he arrived, he knew it was going to be like a symbolic visit. He just assumed Jim was going to be like, no, not meet him. But then it would still be ammunition for him.
But it's not surprising, really, because you never know what Jim's going to do. Is hey, come on in. They always hide the one guy.
Yeah, poor Gene Chaikin.
Yeah, they hide him. So that's probably what they do. They're like, they have a procedure. It's like, oh, it's time to pretend again.
Yeah, Time to Pretend. That's a MGMT song. Great song.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a great song.
Okay, I didn't know.
Someone looked at MGMT. Time to Pretend.
I know that band, but I didn't. Anyway.
Yeah, it's not like one of their big ones. It's a great song.
Okay, cool.
So, in the case of him being turned away at the gate, as he assumed he would be, Ryan planned to then schedule a congressional hearing on Jonestown in February of 1979. So he had everything planned out. But if Jim did cooperate and Ryan could get just one person to confide that they were being held against their will, he could use that as well. This win-win for him.
Yeah.
Then there was the barrage of lawsuits and bad publicity coming from concerned relatives and the recently defected Debbie Layton. Jim decided to strike back and enlisted Temple attorney Mark Lane, who had just arrived back to Jonestown from the U.S., in launching a public relations counter-offensive.
Okay.
Lane was a brilliant attorney who knew how to play the media and sway public opinion. He was instructed to return to the U.S. to strike back at the evil Jonestown detractors. Terry Buford, a longtime Temple member and another member of Jones' inner circle, suggested that she return to the States with Mark and act as a Temple liaison and assist Mark in his efforts as well. Jim agreed. So Mark and Terry left Jonestown shortly after. But what Jim didn't know was that Terry Buford had been looking for a way out. Another defector.
Wow.
From his inner circle.
Yeah.
For months, she'd been looking for a way out. So not long after arriving back in the States, she fled the temple and went into hiding, which saved her life.
Wow.
Good for Terry Buford.
There's some good news, at least.
Yeah. On September 27th, Mark Lane released a document detailing how Jonestown had been the victim of a joint plot between members of the U.S. government and the CIA to destroy Jonestown for its socialist views.
All right.
He also scheduled a press conference in San Francisco on October 3rd, but in the meantime, Jonestown was about to finally get a visitor they were excited about. After months of pestering, Russian Ambassador Fyodor Timofeyev, remember that dude?
Yeah,
Finally,
kind of.
I only mentioned him once, but he's the guy they've been pestering to allow them to come to Russia.
Oh, yeah.
So he finally agrees to come out to Jonestown. It's not like my country at all. Sorry, I had to. It's so different. Well, we already did that. It's just recycled bullshit. He arrived on October 1st and was treated to the typical BS tour as everyone else, that Jim wanted to impress. By this point, Jim saw Russia as the only way out for Jonestown, other than mass suicide, of course.
When Russia is your only way out, you're in a bad way.
Yeah, for sure.
Russia's the answer.
I'm telling you guys. He pulled out all the stops for Timofeyev, gushing on Russia and its Marxist government.
Gushing on Russia.
I know.
I like the way that sounds for some reason. It'd be a good band name.
Seaman at the scene, opening for Gushing on Russia. I don't know. Jim even told him he felt like Russia was Jonestown's spiritual mother. Timofeyev admitted that he was pretty impressed by the jungle settlement, but reiterated that he had heard nothing back from his superiors concerning their migration to Russia. After leaving Jonestown, Timofeyev responded with uncharacteristic hostility. When more letters were sent asking about, can we come to Russia? He started complaining that the Jonestown settlers had become, quote, a pain in the neck. Jim didn't let his people know this, of course, and continued to tout Russia as their new possible home.
When Russia says no.
It's pretty bad.
Like they got all kinds of frozen wasteland. They could just say, yeah, go up there.
Go to Siberia.
Yeah.
Good luck.
But they don't even let them do that.
No.
Like, no, you're not on our ice.
Oh, man, the Flavor Aid would have frozen halfway through the ceremony. 2 days after Timofeyev's visit, Mark Lane held his press conference in San Francisco. In his own fiery, flamboyant way, he denounced the allegations against the People's Temple and cast out a slew of his own accusations against the concerned relatives.
Uh-oh.
What followed was a series of correspondence between Mark and Congressman Ryan about the visit to Jonestown. Although Mark may have viewed the claims of a supposed visit as a publicity stunt, Congressman Leo Ryan was seriously gearing up for a real visit to Guyana. He held several meetings with concerned relatives, who were now being mostly headed up by Temple defectors Al and Jeannie Mills. We mentioned them in the previous episode. He also asked the State Department to hold briefings on the subject, although they were still afraid that further probing into Jonestown may look like they were harassing a religious organization.
Yeah, there's always that. Here's the thing, though. We talked about this before, but I figured this out. I'm almost 100% sure about this. You have to let them in. If there's like talk back and forth, it's like, well, why can't I come in and see?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, no, you can't.
Yeah. See?
I mean, what message does that give?
Right.
So they have to let them in.
Yeah. And we'll get to the process of how the decision was reached that Leo Ryan could actually come in.
We'll let you see one cabin.
Yeah. Then you can go. You have 10 minutes. Ryan moved forward anyway, and on November 1st, he wrote Jim Jones directly to inform him that he would be coming to inspect Jonestown. He also informed Jim that the U.S. was treating his visit as an official congressional investigation. Ryan wrote, and I quote, "My office has been visited by constituents who are members of your church and who expressed anxiety about mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, brothers and sisters who have elected to assist you in the development of your church in Guyana. It goes without saying that I am most interested in a visit to Jonestown."
Yeah.
Ryan did not give Jim a specific date for his visit, but assured him that it was in the process of being arranged. On November 7th, U.S. Consul Douglas Ellis visited. I told you lots of people visited Jonestown.
Yeah.
It was the fourth U.S. Consul visit that year, and it went just like the previous three had. Ellis left feeling like Jonestown was pretty much on the level.
No one digs around. No one, I don't know. You don't have spidey senses? I guess no one has it except for Spidey. But I know, it's like, it doesn't seem like...
Oh, smoke and mirrors. Ooh, smoke and mirrors. Oh, look at those smoke and mirrors over there.
I just had kind of a dark thought. Smoke and mirrors.
That's good. Hey, that's the name of this episode. Smoke and mirrors.
I love it. Sam,
I'm writing it down.
Write it down.
Writing it down. Go ahead.
Here's the thing. There had to be a point where they were like feet away from a giant, well, not giant. You said, how much did you say the cyanide thing was? I mean, how big of a
It was a
package
pound of the powder.
Probably somebody walked right past it. I mean, it was in a closet.
Yeah,
or
that's
something.
true.
But I mean, it's crazy to think
Yeah.
that they just walked past it. They wouldn't have seen it. I'm not saying that, but they did walk right past a lot of things that they could have interpreted a different way.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to tell people to smile and act happy, but don't you think you can kind of sense when it's not authentic? When you tell your wife a joke, you can tell she thinks that joke's funny.
Oh, yeah, never. But yeah. Yeah.
I can pick up on a pity laugh.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. It just seems like they shouldn't have been fooled that easily. But that's us being hindsight's 2020.
I mean, you get to see when Ryan goes and the NBC film crew and stuff, they film their entire visit there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's hours of film from the visit, and you can see how the people act. And
It's on YouTube.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm not compensating for just the brainwashing.
Yeah.
Like I said, I had an aunt one time that when people from her church came over, they would hide their TV in the closet. She did that because she didn't want the preacher to know that they watched Wheel of Fortune
Yeah.
6:30.
Yeah.
So I guess everyone puts stuff on.
Even Wheel of Fortune can be evil. Okay? I was watching it the other night, and it was something about condiments, but the last letters hadn't been written, and for a good long while, the word condom was on television, and I will not stand for it.
Devil's food cake. I think that's devil's food.
Just after that visit from Ellis, Jonestown's unofficial basketball team left for Georgetown, where they were scheduled to play a few exhibition games against the Guyanese national team over the next few weeks.
Jonestown versus Georgetown.
Oh, by the way, people may be confused about the basketball thing I mentioned in the last episode.
Oh, yeah.
That, they had been caught playing basketball. What I left out was that although Jim initially forbade any sports, Marceline had intervened and convinced him that allowing the boys to keep playing would keep up morale. And more importantly, she said, if Jonestown had a functional basketball team that played around the region, she thought it would lend more credibility to the encampment and help convince people that, hey, things are fine. They got a basketball team. It's got to be fine.
Basketball equals credibility.
The Jonestown Globetrotters. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, they do, running away from lawsuits.
Yeah.
So why they're the Globetrotters?
Around November 10th, Jim called the temple office at Lamaha Gardens, and maybe Lamaha, I don't know, in Georgetown, and ordered the basketball team back to Jonestown. Get back, because he knew Congressman Ryan could show up at any time, and he wanted all his flock back together.
Oh, yeah, we got to have our basketball team. What if they're in the middle of a game?
Yeah, come on. Well, Stephen kind of said that. Stephen, his son, his own flesh and blood, he said, guess what, Dad? Not gonna do it.
Oh, they refused.
He said, not coming back. And here's why. They'd lost every game so far that they'd played, but they didn't want to come home without a win.
Okay.
And also, they were having fun in Georgetown.
It's probably the most normal thing ever.
Oh, for sure. Way better than Jonestown. They were allowed more than 2-minute showers. They could wipe with actual Charmin. There may have even been bidets. I don't know.
Dad, we're losing, but we feel like winners.
Yeah, we don't want to come back. So yeah, Stephen flatly refused and ended the conversation. Jim was furious, but he left the matter alone because he had bigger fish to fry.
That's true.
So Stephen just saved his life and the lives of all the basketball.
Whoa.
Yeah, because this is...
Oh, wow. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I didn't think how big that was.
They weren't there. He saved 20 lives, or I don't know.
Wow.
Quite a
That's
few.
crazy.
Yep. Needless to say, Jim was outraged about the looming visit from Congressman, and he spent the following days holding meetings in which he'd babble on about how dangerous Leo Ryan was and how his arrival would spell the end for Jonestown. He also levied dozens of threats against the congressman. His exact words were, quote, if Ryan enters this community illegally, he will not leave alive. I'd like to shoot his ass.
But everything's on the up and up.
Thankfully, Temple member Richard Schropp stepped in and tried to de-escalate things by suggesting they focus their energy towards something positive, such as, if the congressman and his entourage actually could enter Jonestown, maybe instead of shooting him, we could just impress him and do the smoke and mirrors show like we normally do, and then maybe he'll leave us alone.
Kill him with kindness, Jones.
Yeah,
Kill him with kindness.
Not with a bullet. Yeah. On November 13th, Schropp sent a memo out to all the leaders of all the committees in Jonestown, ordering that all the trash be picked up. What?
I was just going to say, take a vacation from being crazy for a little bit. Could everyone just not be crazy?
We just be normal.
Pick up the trash be normal, and then you can go back to being crazy when he's gone.
Yeah.
That's basically what that memo is.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's exactly, let's just pretend to be normal for a day or two. But yeah, he's, also pick everything up, make Jonestown look tidy. We want it to look nice. He even said this is a quote right from the memo. Only display children's art that reflects variety and creativity to counteract propaganda about our people being mind programmed.
Let's get creative.
He continued, our aim should not merely be to present a clean and neat Jonestown and defend against the lies, but to educate this congressman, to open his eyes up to what we're doing. No more quiet, controlled setup shit. That was what he said in the memo.
He started.
He even said shit. I didn't add that in. That was all Richard Trop. As the people of Jonestown went to work cleaning up the encampment and setting up for yet another farce of a tour for Congressman Ryan, the man himself was having one last meeting with concerned citizens and temple defectors before he left California for Guyana. The following day, November 14th, temple member Tim Carter, who had been in California on temple business, arrived back in Jonestown. Unbeknownst to Jim and his inner circle, at that exact same time, Congressman Ryan and his group landed in Guyana. They're there. That group included staff members Jackie Spire. I meant to learn how to say that name, and I didn't. And James Scholert. Screw these last names. Can anybody be Jones or Franklin but wait, Johnson or...
I mean, your main...
Yeah.
Well, Jones, yeah. Okay. I guess that was a Freudian.
Oh, so you like Jim Jones now?
Ah.
You like him based on his name.
I like his name.
He can be whatever he's going to be, but he's got a normal name, so he's good in Joe's book.
Anyway, I'm just going to say Jackie and James. And then
there you go.
9 members of the media. Let's see their last names. Tim Reiterman. Okay.
That's not bad.
Photographer Greg Robinson. God bless you, Greg.
Nice.
And your lineage. Of the San Francisco Examiner. Ron Javers of the San Francisco Chronicle.
We judge everyone based on how he's there.
Producer Bob Flick. I like him. Cameraman Bob Brown. Love him.
Uh-oh. We're going to have a Schneisenheimer coming up pretty soon. Joe's going to hate him.
Sound tech Steve Sung. Great guy. NBC reporter Dawn Harris. Still loving it. Charles Krause. I'll accept it. Of the Washington Post. And finally, Gordon Lindsay from the National Enquirer. We're all good.
Okay.
Just screw those 2 first people. All right. Not really. I'm sorry. There were also several members from concerned relatives as well. So, of course, there was Tim and Grace Stone. We already mentioned Howard and Beverly Oliver, Stephen Katsaris, and his son, Anthony, Sherwin Harris, Nadine Houston, Carol Boyd, Bonnie Burnham, and finally, Gang of 8 members, Jim Cobb, Mickey Touche, Wayne Piatilla, and Carol Bouquet. Remember, throughout the entire ordeal thus far, Leo Ryan 100% did not expect to be actually led into Jonestown. Like I said, for him, the trip was mainly a publicity stunt to garner more media and public attention to the plight of the people being held there against their will. Jim Jones turning the group away at the gate basically was Leo's money shot. At first, Ryan was correct. When Jim found out the congressman had actually arrived in Guyana, he was livid and informed temple attorneys Mark Lane and Charles Gary, who had intercepted Ryan in Georgetown, to tell the congressman he would never enter through the gates.
Nothing to see here.
Keep on moving.
Yeah.
Let me remind you that the Guyanese government were just about as pissed as Jim was about Ryan's visit. They immediately informed the congressman that they were not going to cooperate or offer any protection or assistance in any way.
Yeah. How much money is it bringing into their economy? Probably substantial amount.
Yeah. Jonestown.
I mean, all that Social Security, and they have to buy everything because they can't grow anything.
Right.
So, yeah, it's probably a good place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
for them.
It was for them. So they told the congressman, if you want to go out to Jonestown, you're on your own. They weren't going to offer him shit. They even warned him that Jim could claim unlawful harassment if they pressed too hard. Ryan received the same treatment at the U.S. Embassy in Georgetown, where Ambassador John Burke told him that he'd already been out there several times, and there was no damn reason to keep poking this hornet's nest. Leo Ryan, I'm not helping you either. Okay?
Yeah.
He saw Ryan's visit as an unnecessary publicity grab for the congressman, and again, refused to help. But Ryan was absolutely determined to go to Jonestown. The following day, Wednesday, November 15th, Leo Ryan departed his group and snuck away to the temple's office in Lamaha Gardens. After scaling a concrete wall to gain entrance, Ryan came face to face with temple members Sharon Amos and Laura Johnston Cole. He climbed the fence. This guy is wanting to get in.
Wow.
Right?
Hello.
They were obviously angry. They informed Ryan that he was trespassing and ordered him to leave. But Jim Jones wasn't the only fella in Guyana who had a silver tongue. Right?
Yeah, right.
Ryan was able to calm the women down and assured them that he meant no harm whatsoever to anyone in Jonestown. He just wanted to visit.
Yeah, I mean, you climb a wall to visit.
The women relented, but claimed Jim was ill and unable to meet at that time. But all Ryan wanted to know, and he was right. He was like, if I can just talk to a couple of these members, these temple members. So he found their little hideout at Georgetown.
Yeah.
And that was a smart move on his part. All right. Over the next few days, Ryan and his staff continued to negotiate the conditions of a possible Jonestown visit with the temple attorneys. Ryan mentioned that during his visit to the temple office in Omaha Gardens, he hadn't seen a single religious painting, book, sign, picture, or text of any kind. Were they an actual religious organization? Maybe. If Jim refused this visit, maybe Ryan would investigate the validity of the People's Temple's tax-exempt status when he got back to California. You see, he's playing chess, baby.
Yeah, they've abandoned that a long time ago.
Right. So he's saying, okay.
He's God.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe they are still religious.
Are you still tax exempt if God is in your congregation?
You should be twice as tax exempt.
The government should pay you.
Yeah. I mean, if literal God is there, then hell yeah, you should be tax exempt. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're definitely not a nonprofit.
So this was a cool, little ruse. It wasn't a ruse, I guess. It could have been a legitimate threat that Ryan was like, hey, all right, tell Jim if he doesn't want to see me, then maybe I'll just, when I get back to California, investigate this whole tax exempt thing, and maybe that would be revoked. And man, Jim would lose maybe millions. I don't know if that was at least hundreds of thousands.
#smart.
Yeah. After this, Lane and Gary had a private meeting with Jim in which they argued with him to relent finally and allow Ryan in. There were several reasons, the tax exempt threat, obviously. There was the negative publicity if Jim refused the visit, and the virtual guarantee that if not allowed to tour Jonestown, Ryan would carry on his crusade indefinitely.
The fear of the unknown. If they didn't let him in, they didn't know what would happen.
Yeah.
So let him in so you can control your fate a little bit. That's what I was saying earlier. I think that's the only logical choice, even though it's probably not a great choice. You're out of good choices because you're crazy and you're in the jungle.
Yeah. And that was a great way to put it, to control, at least a little bit, to control your destiny.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a good way to put it. Yeah, so Richard Trop, just as he had suggested, the temple attorneys suggested that Jim just allow Ryan to have a short visit. They'd razzle and dazzle him just like they did everybody else.
Yeah.
And if they wooed him enough, maybe he'd go home happy and this shit would all end. They'd be left alone. Maybe. Worth a shot.
It is, but this guy's relentless.
On Friday, November 17th, now this is the day before the end. We're at the day before the end.
Wow. So the next episode's going to be one day. It's going to be like that show 24.
A lot happens in that day.
That's cool.
A lot happens. A lot happens on the 17th and the 18th, man.
All right, Kiefer Sullivan.
I love
Sutherland.
Oh, Sutherland. I said Sullivan.
Oh, I thought you said Sutherland. Oh, well.
Sullivan, like from Monsters, Inc. Go ahead.
So yeah, on Friday, November 17th, Marceline joined the attorneys in their efforts to convince Jim to allow a visit. In a very rare show of defiance, Marcy actually yelled at Jim, quote, "I'm the one who's keeping this together, not you." Okay. Now here's the thing. Jim Jones never actually agreed to let Ryan or anyone else visit. He never said okay.
Was he all drugged out, so just let it happen?
It was half that and the other. Basically, Marcy and the two attorneys, they basically just ignore it. He was like, I ain't letting Ryan in. They just ignored him.
Okay.
They just said, you know what? We're letting him in. We're overstepping you. And he pretty much just pouted off to his cabin and locked the door. That's how it went. He never really said, okay, you can come in.
Which it seems eerie that it's also the beginning of the end. Like that never happened before.
Right.
So you would think that would be a good thing, but definitely is not.
No. It's a weird deal. So yeah, Mark Lane and Charles Gary, they were the attorneys. They then called Congressman Ryan and said, you know what? You can come to Jonestown. You bring along with you whoever you want. But there's no guarantee. They did leave Jim a little bit of power because they said there's no guarantee that anyone other than Ryan would be allowed in, but bring everybody and we'll see who we can let in. Because they was just wanting to let everybody in, let everybody tour it and leave.
Okay.
That was them.
Bring everyone. We may not let them in, but bring them.
Yeah. I don't know.
It is kind of weird.
Ryan was elated and wasted no time contacting Ambassador Burke to request a plane to get to the Kaituma airstrip. That was the closest one to Jonestown. Now, by the way, the previous day, Jim had ordered Jim McElvain, Michael Prokes, and Johnny Brown to go to that airstrip and block the runway with brush and trees. Jim figured the more time he could force Ryan to travel, the less time he'd be in Jonestown. So with the airstrip in Port Kaituma blocked, Ryan would have to land over in Matthews Ridge, which was further away. You get it. It would add way more time to, I don't know. It's just a petty.
Yeah. Which he didn't think they would say, hey, what's with the trees?
Did he not put a random toll booth out in the middle of the forest?
Like Bugs Bunny or something?
Blazing Saddles.
Oh, yeah. We got to go get a shitload of dimes.
which I said Bugs Bunny because if you think about it, it's a really cartoony type of thing, like something he would do.
Yep.
They even do a Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. They do. That's right.
Well, I also thought of Robin Hood Men in Tights, where Little John is out there on the bridge.
Wasn't that also a Mel Brooks movie?
Yes, absolutely it was. You got to pay the toll. If we don't get no tolls, we don't get no rows. I made that up. And then Dave Chappelle's like, this ain't exactly the Mississippi. I'm on the East Bank. I'm on the West Bank. You know, and Robin Hood's like, that's the principle.
Oh, yeah.
Such a great movie, man. I freaking love Mel Brooks.
I always forget Dave Chappelle is in there.
Yes. Oh, and he's a chew. He's a chew.
A chew.
Yeah. But anyway, I've been blasting this all over my social medias, but my God.
Oh, Spaceballs 2?
They are making Spaceballs 2.
It's crazy.
They are making Spaceballs 2!
Rick Moranis, that's the biggest thing.
He's coming out of retirement after like 15, 20 years to be in it.
I always read that guy just stayed home to take care of his kids.
He did. His wife passed away, and he stayed home with his kids. Crazy, huh?
And fans are like, why? He's like, no.
He
can do what he wants.
Yeah, he did the best thing.
Definitely bummed out by it, but I mean, I'm not going to like throw an adult tantrum about it.
But Bill Pullman's coming back.
Wow.
His son is going to be in the film too. Mel Brooks is going to be Yogurt again at 98 years old.
Should work. It should work.
He can work.
R.I.P. John Candy, though.
I know. Yeah. Well, and Joan Rivers can't come back as Dot Matrix either, you know. That's a bummer.
Oh, that's true.
Too, yeah. But anyway, all right. Okay, I could talk about that for 2 hours.
Yeah, for sure.
Unfortunately, now remember, to recap, Jim sends a couple of his minions out to block the airstrip. Unfortunately, there was a Guyanese military plane parked on the runway at the Kaituma airstrip, and there were soldiers everywhere, so these three randos couldn't just start dragging out logs and branches.
Hey, we were supposed to put branches on this runway. You guys get out of here.
Yeah. So they were like, all right, that didn't work. So they had to go back to Jim and say, sorry.
Stupid Jim.
On the same day Ryan was finally granted permission, he and 17 others boarded a twin-engine otter plane at 2:30 p.m. Of the 17 passengers were Jackie, what was her last name, the members of the press, Temple's attorneys Mark Lane and Charles Gary, U.S. Deputy Chief of Mission Richard Dwyer, Guyanese Government Information Officer Neville Anaborn, and concerned relatives Beverly Oliver, Jim Cobb, Carol Boyd, and Anthony Katsaris. When they landed an hour later in Port Kaituma, they were greeted by a group of Jonestown settlers who quickly let Mark Lane know that Father was only going to allow Gary, the Temple attorney, Congressman Ryan, Jackie Spear, and Richard Dwyer. That's it.
The rest of you guys, welcome to the jungle. For nothing.
Yeah, the rest of the group would just have to wait there unless they could convince Jim to let more people in.
Okay.
Right. Ryan and the others then climbed aboard a rusted old one-ton truck and made the long and bumpy drive out to Jonestown. I think it was 6 miles of muddy, shitty road. Once there, they were greeted by Marcy, who was actually excited about the visit, seeing it as an opportunity to display what a miraculous thing they'd achieved.
Yeah.
But Ryan postponed the tour. He said, no, I don't want a guided tour. I want to talk to Jim right now. He was getting right to business.
Wow.
They went and told Jim, and of course, Jim, being the petulant child, he made him wait for an hour and a half.
Okay.
After an hour and a half, Jim appeared, calmly striding up to Ryan in his trademark red shirt and dark glasses. Now, finally face to face. I see it as like on The Exorcist, where the old priest and the statue of Pazuzu were like face to face at the beginning, and it's playing that crazy music.
Oh, yeah.
Good versus evil.
That's a good reference.
Now, finally, face to face, Ryan politely but sternly informed Jim that the only way to stop the controversy and rumors that Jonestown was a prison camp, and the only way to make him go away, was to let everyone in. Now, guess what? Jim was like, "You're right. No, I'm not even, that's not even a gotcha." He was like,
Caught
"Okay."
me on a good day.
He was just like, "All right, okay." He just changed his mind. Except for, he had one exception. Gordon Lindsay from the National Enquirer must have pissed Jim off something fierce, because he sees everybody can come except for that son of a bitch.
Oh, okay.
He just didn't let him in.
Okay.
And Gordon had actually attempted to get into Jonestown a few months before and had been denied then too. So he really got under Jim's skin somehow. I don't know.
You're not on the list.
So while the truck was sent back to Port Kaituma to get all the rest of the people, except for that one guy, Congressman Ryan and Jackie Spear began interviewing the settlers. Of course, everyone they spoke to insisted that they were happy. They had no intentions of ever leaving. Their reactions and responses seemed genuine and spontaneous enough to cause Ryan to wonder if they weren't actually telling the truth.
Well, they don't intend to leave in the way that they're thinking.
No. Right. Were they telling the truth?
We're going to leave all right. Just not in the traditional sense.
Right. But you were mentioning earlier, why didn't someone sense something was off? Well, Ryan was the guy.
Okay.
So he did wonder if they weren't telling the truth, but he says it on the thing, something is not right. When the rest of Ryan's entourage arrived, Jim himself went out to meet them. Although the overall mood was cordial, a thickness hung in the air. It was tense,
Nice.
baby. We could cut it with a knife.
Nice.
As darkness fell upon the jungle, everyone gathered into Jonestown's main pavilion for supper, which consisted of heaping portions of pork, greens, potatoes, and fresh biscuits. A stark departure from the customary rice slop, but Ryan and his media guests didn't know that.
I bet they all got that 2-hour shower right before that.
Yeah, everybody clean up.
Yeah.
You can wipe with
Our
actual
2
toilet
hour.
paper. Well, hey,
2-minute.
are you married? Some ladies take 2-hour showers in water that could melt the bark off a tree. Hey, do you want to jump in the shower with me? Ooh, yeah. Ah! Like, that's how it goes. No, thanks. I like my skin being on my body, you psychopath. How do you even stand in there? It's insane. They just go all the way to the H. Good God, man.
H.
Hell stands for hell. It hurts so bad.
Well, I mean, they're not in a tub of ice water, too, Joe.
John Cougar didn't sing about that, did he?
No, they didn't. You used to do the ice bath challenges.
Yeah, I'd rather do that than take a shower with my wife.
As I always say, the answer's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, true. Medium, just go between the H and the C.
Which it's dumb. Never straight up is right. It's always 45, one or the other, no matter what hotel you go to, no matter what Verbo, no matter my house. It's never, why is it never straight up? Never.
Never.
It's always left or right.
You're right. At my house, it's probably at like 10:30.
Some plumber drawing up all this stuff. Like, find out what people like and put it right there in the middle.
Yeah.
It all depends on what the water heater set at, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, that's
but
where
I mean,
it begins.
I
Yeah.
feel like you could do a study and you could figure out what is the average range of the water temperature that are in people's houses. Okay, this range right here. So we could dial it in. This is a crazy hill to die
12
on.
o'clock. I know.
But it's just a common sense thing I never understand. You're bringing up a mini rant. Anyway.
Everything's in the middle. You're right. And as you were talking, I think I just realized maybe my wife has the water that hot, so I won't be in the shower with her.
Well, I was thinking that before, but I didn't want to say it, man.
No.
I'm trying to be cool.
I came to it on my own.
Because you said, I thought you meant she made that sound.
I'm ashamed of my body. Don't look at it.
She wouldn't invite you in.
No, she just puts it on hot because Joey comes in here. He's just going to, he just
He
wants
won't
to do
be
some
in here
boom boom.
long.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a good, use that, wives, but don't listen, man. Get a bunch of people mad at me. So after this meal, the Jonestown Express Band took the stage to provide some music and singing, during which the crowd jovially cut up and danced. Now, we have a little bit, and this is from that night.
Oh, we do have.
Yeah, I said no before I lied. We have, anybody that wants to see this, and it's fascinating, the video on YouTube is called Jonestown Extended NBC Footage. Okay.
So they're having like a party. They invite them in for like a dance.
Big party. Yeah. It's under the pavilion. It's just food, dance. People are, I mean, it looks great. Looks fantastic.
It's like South America Saturday night.
Go to 44 minutes.
Wow, that's some good music.
Yeah, you know, so you at home obviously don't know this, but we have a huge screen behind us here. And as that was playing, we were watching it. And the camera just pans around to this huge pavilion. It's packed. And then it shows the stage with the singers and the musicians on it. And all I was thinking was, man, in just a few hours, every single person in that video was dead, laying in the jungle. Every single one of them. Isn't that crazy? Every single one of them.
That's crazy.
All the kids up front clapping, the singers, that beautiful woman singing, all of them were dead the next day.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But
yeah, so that was the pageantry they were putting on. So fully aware of the Stones' presence back in Georgetown, Jim made sure to show little John Victor, who is now nearly 6 years old, to the TV crew, and he was pointing out all their similarities. Look, he's got hair. Me too. You know, just that's actually on this film too. Jim is sitting there and he brings up the little boy and he's like, look at his teeth and look at my teeth. You know, it's like, whatever, Jim. But anyway, after the festivities, Leo Ryan got up on the stage to address the crowd, and we have that too. He wasn't able to say very much, but we're going to play that now.
So we are at least friends in that extent. I'm very glad to be here. This is a congressional inquiry. I think that all of you know that I'm here to find out more about questions that have been raised about your operation here. But I can tell you right now that from the few conversations I've had with some of the folks here already this evening, that whatever the comments are, there are some people here who believe that this is the best thing that ever happened in their whole life.
they're basically cheering because they realize that they fooled the guy, I think. I think it's like, we did it. We've been planning for a long time to fool this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Or, well, I don't know, a long time. But maybe they were talking about it all day. Like,
I'm sure they
hey,
were.
when it gets here, you go here, you do this. We'll set up here. We'll do this thing. We'll play this song. Make sure you tune your trumpet. You know? Like,
yeah.
It's got to sound perfect.
Yeah, I never thought about it till then. But yeah. And by the way, we faded it out quickly.
Yeah.
They cheer forever. I can't stress enough. Go watch it on YouTube. As they're cheering, it shows Congressman Ryan. He starts to try to talk again. Obviously, they're still cheering. He can't. He kind of smiles a little bit. But like I told the guys when it was playing, watch his face. It goes from kind of like a smile because he can't talk.
I've only heard one other cheer like that, and that's when Oprah's like, look under your seat. And there's like an iPad or something. They're cheering over one thing that the guy said. I mean, to them, it's everything. But to a regular person, it's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
He looks concerned.
And he didn't say that was his opinion.
He just repeated what they said.
Yes.
Yeah.
He said, there's a few people here that said this is the best thing that ever happened to him. And 900 people went nuts on what he said their own person said or people said.
I wonder if he was going to say, but I don't believe you. But the cheer was so long, he probably never had a chance.
His face says it to me.
Yeah, that's true.
His face says
and
it.
also, like, you'd be too afraid to say that.
Of course.
They could start throwing stuff at you. If a mob went after you right at that moment,
oh, for sure.
you're gone.
Yeah.
There's no way.
1 versus 900.
Yeah.
No, forget it.
Yeah, you're right. He does look uneasy. I mean, I even look at where you pause it right there. I mean, he looks...
Yeah, that does not look like a relaxed man, does it?
No.
But he may have known some shit by this point. All right? A lot of stuff is going on at the same time. Because as this was happening, as he was talking and everyone was going crazy, the true seeds of Jonestown's destruction were being sown in the form of a little scrap piece of paper that had been slipped to NBC reporter Dawn Harris.
Uh-oh.
As this was happening, it read, Vernon Gosney and Monica Bagby, please help us get out of Jonestown.
Wow.
Now, Harris initially kept the notice secret from everyone except Leo, who immediately realized his suspicions of Jonestown and Jim Jones had just been vindicated. So I said as this exactly was happening, I feel like this happened, I don't know this for sure, but I feel like it happened right before he addressed the crowd. I think as Leo Ryan
he already had that.
That's why his face looks, I think as he's standing up there, he knows this already.
Yeah, he has to say that in front of everyone because if he's fearing for his safety, he's got to put on, it's like sandbagging in cards. Like, oh yeah, I got the cards.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I mean, you make people think that all's good.
While you get the defectors out the back door.
Yeah, because he can't obviously have any contention right now.
No, so he's playing it smart, what he should do. Man, this place is great. You know, it's like,
yeah.
Hey, how about y'all meet over there and I'll come over there in a minute. And then you get the people and run or whatever.
You can trust me. I'm on your side.
Yeah.
Wow. What a brave guy, man.
Yeah, he was, man. Well, he had every intention of escorting every person who wanted out to leave, but also realized he had to be strategic and delicate about the matter. What we just said. You guys foreshadowed exactly what I had in my notes. Although everyone else in the group was returning to Port Kaituma for the night, Leo Ryan and Dwyer decided to stay the night in Jonestown. I don't know if I would have wanted to do that, but...
No, I don't know.
Ryan knew he had to keep all possible defectors a secret until he took them with him the next day. Like we said, you can't let anyone know. But Vernon and Monica weren't the only Jonestown settlers planning on leaving at the time. In the early morning hours of the following day, Saturday, November 18th, 1978, the day, guys, the last day of this entire saga. On that morning, a group of 6 adults and 3 small children slipped out of Jonestown into the jungle. The parents had correctly assumed that with all the hubbub and attention focused on Ryan's visit, their absence wouldn't be noticed. And they were right.
Wow.
Everybody was too preoccupied. Over the course of the day, there were several that slipped out even before the Flavor Aid stuff started. Yeah.
Wow.
So the parents had even had the forethought of giving their kids fruit punch laced with Valium, not cyanide, to keep them quiet. You know, just, and that sounds a little barbaric, but shit, man, if you got a 9-month-old baby, I don't know how young the kids were, but I'm saying, what if you're in the jungle and you're almost away, but a baby doesn't know and it's tired or it has a poopy diaper and it's going to scream. So it's like, it was a necessary evil, I guess.
At that point, you're playing like a game for your life.
Yes.
So you got to be deceptive and you got to have tactics. Sadly, yeah.
I mean, that's reminiscent of the Holocaust.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Sadly.
It gets depressing. I'm sorry.
I mean, think about that, though. Like, this is just one guy and a few of his minions that you're doing that to. It's not Hitler and
the entire
Nazi regime.
Yeah.
But at a smaller scale, he had a regime, though.
Yeah.
I guess he did. He had the Red Brigade.
You're right. It's different, but it's so funny that it is different, but it's so much the same, too, in another frame of thought, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, I don't know, these 6 folks, when they went out into the jungle, they bumped into 2 others who had went out a little bit before them. Oh, are you running too? So are we. Let's go. So now there's 8 out there. The plan was to tear through the jungle until they found the train tracks and follow them to Matthews Ridge, and from there they would call U.S. officials for help. That was their plan.
That's smart, though. Find train tracks or...
Yeah, no, some way where you could go towards some kind of civilization.
Yep, exactly. Now, while the 11 new defectors were racing towards Matthews Ridge, why did I write 11? I thought it was 6 and they met 2. However many they were. The members of Ryan's group who'd been... Wait.
Maybe he didn't count the babies or something.
Hold on, and we're going to go back. 6 adults. Oh, yeah, 6 adults and 3 small children, 9 plus 2. Okay, so we're going to start that over.
Hey.
I was right. While the 11 new defectors were racing towards Matthews Ridge, the members of Ryan's group who'd been exiled to Port Kaituma the previous night were coming back to Jonestown. Remember, Dwyer and Ryan were the only two that stayed.
Yeah.
It's funny that a baby is classified as a defector.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know. And by the way, those people got away. So those babies that got out of there are roughly our age.
Wow.
They're around somewhere, unless they've passed away within 45, 6, 7 years. They're somewhere and they're like, hey, man, my mom smuggled me out of Jonestown just a few hours before the suicide. They've got a hell of a story.
Hey, Jonestown Babies, 4174 Mantis.
That's
You're
another good band
Jonestown's
name.
Baby.
Jonestown's Babies.
Jonestown Babies. Oh, my goodness. I hope it's not taken.
It's a good name. Jonestown Babies. So yeah, the members of the rest of Ryan's group that had to go back to Port Kaituma, they're coming back to Jonestown, and they arrive at about 10:45 a.m. All right, now about 15 minutes after their arrival, while Congressman Ryan and Jackie Spear continued to interview settlers under the pavilion, Marceline gave the press a strictly guided tour of Jonestown's nursery and school facilities.
Okay.
When they asked if they could they were like, can we just walk around and just look at stuff and talk? No. You know, it's like, no, we're walking here now, and now
Has
we're walking.
to be a guided tour. No straying from the damn tour.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. With the exception of the few people Ryan wanted to interview and a large group of children watching Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory under their pavilion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They just did that to shut them up while they were there. The rest of the Jonestown settlers had been instructed to hide in their cabins, do not come out. So Jim pretty much like, we're going to distract the kids with a movie. Anyone that Ryan doesn't want to talk to, stay your ass in your cabin. Marcy, you give them a strictly guided tour. Let's get this shit over with and get them out of here.
Yeah.
Jim was supposed to have emerged from his cottage earlier in the morning, but did not appear until noon. He looked agitated. Nothing happened in Jonestown without him knowing, and it is very likely he already knew about the secret note from Vernon and Monica.
Boy, I bet that the scene of the ride down the Chocolate Canal was nothing for them, was it?
Yeah, with all the crazy lights and slowers or continue rowing or however it went. That's my favorite part of the whole movie. Yeah. It's so crazy.
They're like, boy, that looks like a day in the park.
I forgot about that.
Oh, it's great. But Jim's day would only get progressively worse from there. Edith Parks, a follower of Jim's since his earliest days in Indiana, she told Ryan that Jim had been holding her prisoner and she wanted to leave too. Wow. It just started to fall apart. There were others now too. Edith's son, Jerry Parks, his wife, Patricia, and their 3 children, Dale, Tracy, and Brenda, as well as Brenda's boyfriend, Chris O'Neill, they all came up to Ryan and said they wanted to leave too. Quite a few people.
Yeah, how am I going to get all these people out of here?
that is what he was thinking.
We came in one truck.
Yeah.
Didn't they?
Yeah, one big old flatbed truck. Then a strange thing happened. Though it was not uncommon in Jonestown for random showers or thunderstorms to roll in, what descended upon the settlement that day was unlike anything the settlers had seen, even the first ones that had been there. The sky grew black, and for the next several minutes, buckets of rain pounded the area while everyone huddled under the pavilion. The already tense mood grew quickly worse, and everything began to fall apart. During the storm, several members of the Bogue family, Edith, Jim, Tina, Juanita, and Tommy, told Ryan they wanted to leave too. Then Edith's longtime partner, Harold Cordell, also said he wanted to leave. Harold had a 12-year-old son he also wanted to take, but the boy insisted he wanted to stay there. As the two argued, Harold began to cry, and Marilee Bogue, who was still under Jim's spell, began to scream and call the group a bunch of traitors. Now, mind you, this was all happening during a freak storm while everyone was forced into tight quarters huddling under that pavilion. Tim Carter would later say that the entire vibe grew dark, and not just because of the storm clouds. He said it was literally as if evil had just blown into Jonestown. And he would soon be proven right. That's where we'll pick things up in the final episode of our 14-part series.
Wow. So they're hunkering down in there and their true colors are shining through.
It's starting to fall apart. More and more people are coming out saying they want to leave. The ones that are still brainwashed are screaming at him, and Jim is standing over there just fuming, watching it all go down, just grinding his teeth.
Wow. Well, that's a crazy place to leave it, but it's to be left somewhere, I guess.
You bet. We're going to wrap this thing up next week, folks.
Yeah.
So buckle up. We'll see you then.